Well, it's good to be back into the premiere mode again after my little surgical procedure, and now, wouldn't you know it, as soon as you get over one little obstacle, now I've caught some sort of a virus or a cold that's giving me this persistent cough and a runny nose. So I'm going to do my best to get through this premiere. It just seems like when we overcome one obstacle, there's always one waiting for us. So if I sound a little bit different, it's because I do have a head cold right now. But what we're going to celebrate now is the progression and the process that I took Shahid's Singer 201-2 through. And Shahid, again, if you don't remember, is from San Diego, California. That's where this Royce of Singers is going to be heading. But I want to show you where we kind of started with a real kind of a rough machine, and then we'll unveil and I'll show you what we were able to take that machine to. Again, this was not a full restoration. This was conditioning the paint, taking it through a number of different processes to try to wick out all of the junk out of the pigment and just try to return that luster to the machine, along with the normal mechanical, electrical restoration steps that I take machines through as well. So let's go through these photos and I'll show you kind of where we started, and then we can take a look and see where we're at now. So you can see in this opening shot the paint is real chalky and real rough. There you really get kind of a picture of the condition of the paint. It's real rough, not just varnishing, but just all kinds of stuff going on with the paint patina on this Singer 201-2. You can just continue to see the challenges, and the overall appearance is real rough. All the way across the bed, the pillar, every aspect of the machine is definitely lacking the luster at this point. And there you can see kind of my secret sauce. Those two bottles that I use for chemically treating paint to try to get all of that stuff out of the pigment. And I'm not going to go into details as to what it is, but it works real well. There we're kind of looking down at the top of the machine. And again, just a real nasty, chalky appearance to it. Nothing that really points to the fact that this is supposed to be the Rolls-Royce of Singer sewing machines. It just doesn't present well. There we're looking at the back of the machine, across the arm and down to the pillar and the bed as well. You can see just a nasty, chalky appearance to it. And again, this is stuff that develops sometimes over decades. So it's a slow process to try to get all of this stuff taken out of the paint. We're talking hours and hours and hours and hours of work to try to address something like this when it's occurred. And these are up on Facebook as well, but I know a lot of my YouTube friends do not Facebook it. So there we're kind of looking across the machine. You can see that chalkiness carrying through. And now we're starting to make our impact. And I know a lot of you were really enthusiastic as you looked at these photos on Facebook, and you were like, holy cow, that's really a huge impact. And it really is. And there you can see on that pad one of many, 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 many pads as to all the junk that we're wicking out of the paint. Process just continues. There's the secret sauce at work. And as I say in a lot of the premieres, those nasty looking pads you see there for cleaning up this paint on Shahid's Singer 201-2 is just a real small sampling of the number of pads that I went through, obviously. And there we're starting to see some of that beauty of the machine coming back. Again, it's a real slow process. And there you can see the bed is wet with some of that secret sauce as I'm trying to break down all of that buildup that's all over the machine and deeply embedded into the paint. And again, it really is a game of patience. You have to take into account it's taken decades for this stuff to build up, and you're not going to get it off in one fell swoop. I'd love if there was a secret sauce where I could just wipe it off and boom, we're done. But it's a very extended, protracted process. Excuse me. And there's one of the final shots that I've shown as far as the impact that we've had. And you can see a lot of that shine starting to kind of creep back through. And it just, it's starting to look more like a Royce of Singers, isn't it? And then we're back at the beginning again. And I've got other progress shots that I posted on Shahid's 201-2 as well. I think they're above here. Let's see here. Some of the more mechanical stuff that I was doing on his machine. If I'm able to, well, that's our featherweight there. Oops. So these are going to be some of the mechanical things that were done to Shahid's 201-2. Some of these things I had not planned to do initially. A lot of what you're going to see here is where I'm disassembling the presser foot bar because it was a little bit sluggish in its movement, and I did some things to the needle bar as well, and I just wasn't satisfied with it. And I'll go through these kind of rapidly. Again, these are up on Facebook, and you can certainly check them out. Check them out there as well. And that's part of our release as well for the tensioner, which also had some issues going on, so that was also taken out as well in some of these finalization steps, just to make sure everything was exactly right with this 201-2. Again, you're not going to get this as part of your standard service at a local sewing center. They would be probably literally terrified about the idea of breaking a machine down to this extent. Because again, you can take anything apart, but the secret is putting it back together with precision so it's going to function exactly as it was intended to do. Excuse me. And again, every part plays into the equation. You can't, and I've said this before, with dirt and gook and everything migrating, you can't clean one part, excuse me, and not clean them all. And I don't know if you can see it in this shot, but that arm that is part of the tensioner release, we kind of zoom in on it a little bit, it was just absolutely filthy. Again, just detailed cleaning. Some parts have to be stripped, others have to be lubricated with a light film of lubricant. And again, we're just in the process of getting everything right and getting it eventually put back together again. Doesn't that look better? You can immediately see when something is excuse me, clean. And here we're removing some just a real little light film that was on the inside of the presser foot bar that was inhibiting the movement excuse me, just slightly. More adjustments, and we're beginning the process of putting it back together. Here's our presser foot bar. Excuse me, you can kind of see there that buildup in the filth on there. That sure looks a lot better, doesn't it? Not to mention it's going to function much better with all that junk on all those moving parts. And like I said, some need to be stripped, some need to be lubricated. So that's what we're doing now, is we're beginning to reassemble all of those components that work in concert between the presser foot bar, the upper tension release, and everything else. Excuse me, stripping parts down. And again, when you get a part from being filthy to a point like this where it's nice and clean, you also have to protect that metal so that it doesn't rust, it doesn't readily pick up all that stuff again. So there's a light film of a solvent that goes on all of those parts once they're stripped down. And there we're pretty much almost all the way back together again. And there we're just cleaning out some of the gook that's around that needle plate area so that that needle plate will sit perfectly flat. All kinds of stuff, oil and varnishing can build up underneath there, and that needle plate will start to get displaced, and that affects how that material then moves over those feed dogs, because that plate is then not in the correct position. Doesn't that look good? That's the way a raceway and a hook system should look, and the feed dogs as well, when it's been properly restored. That is pretty. And there we have a much happier machine right there. You can see all the stuff on the paint there where I've gotten it out of that groove area. All that stuff that builds up in there, it's just crazy. full circle? I think we did. Yep, we're full circle. So that again is just a little glimpse of a small number of the mechanical restorative steps that have to be taken in the workshop in order to get that machine just the way it should be. You'll have to forgive me for a second. I've got to clear my... It is the cold season, isn't it? Excuse me. So again, just to remind you what I just showed you the different shots of is Shahid's Singer 201-2. Remember, there were a number of different 201s, and I mentioned this in a lot of the premieres, a lot of the videos. We kind of started with the treadle machine, which was the 201-1. We then had a potted version, which is what Shahid's is, the 201-2. There's also a belt-driven version of the 201, which is the 201-3. And then finally the 201-4, which is a hand crank. Out of all of those models, my favorite is a 201-2 because I just think that gear-to-gear, positive traction, direct drive benefit of what that potted motor does on the machine, just like on the 1591 as well with the potted motor, just gives you such an advantage when it comes to doing heavy grade sewing and doing it with a great deal of ease, assuming that machine has been optimized and is running well. And the 201s, as you know, have been around for a long time. One of the first 201s that came on the scene was all the way back in 1928. And then the various series of the 201 finally ended in 1963. So that's a really good run as far as manufacturing a class like that for that period of time, from 1928 all the way to 1963. And I mean, all the way through World War II, there was a little bit of a break where production for a lot of the sewing machine companies, including Singer, kind of took a sideline as they were helping with the war effort, but they didn't miss a lot of beats. They just continued to drive forward. And I can talk more about that, assuming my voice will hold out, and talk a little bit more about the history and how Princess Elizabeth was also on the scene as well in the 1940s, kind of adding fame and adding some glamour to the 201 as well over in Britain, and just an incredibly proud legacy as far as the 201 manufacturing class. Okay, blah 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 blah. Over here on this workbench, obviously, as we kind of scroll out, is one of those silly partitions that I love to put up. And again, I'm going to kind of go back to those other pictures because I do want you to be reminded about the impact. Bear with me for a second here, folks. There we go. I finally found it. Okay, so what I was trying to say is I want you to be reminded about the impact from this to what you're going to see behind this partition momentarily. So I'm going to move this out of the way. And this is the final product as far as the aesthetic, the mechanical, the electrical, and a huge myriad of adjustments and fine-tuning for Shahid's 201-2. So what do you think? From this We just looked at all these pictures. To this. Just a little bit of a difference, I think. And this, what we're seeing now on camera, is what we expect to see when we talk about the Royce of Singers sewing machines, the 201-2. It is a glamorous, a majestic machine that really needs to have that look that goes along with its performance as well. And the performance part that I'm really looking forward to showing you is the way it can go through a variety of different heavy grade sew-offs and do it with such ease. So I'm going to kind of move in on this machine a little bit, and we'll take a look at doing some sew-offs with Shahid's 201-2. And I appreciate your patience as I'm trying to make my voice last. Hopefully, and one of my ears is plugged right now, so I can't tell if I'm talking too loud either, but I'm doing my best. And yes, I'm continuing to drink that sweet tea that I've kind of gotten a little bit addicted to and really am enjoying. But I'm not sure that sweet tea is probably good for my throat. It probably isn't. Okay. Check my shot again. Yeah, that's a good shot. Okay, so I've got a variety of different sew-offs that we're going to do on Shahid's Singer 201-2. I've got everything from U.S. Army grade canvas. I've got a cotton polyester blend. I've got leather. I've got nylon webbing. And it goes on. Excuse me. So I'm going to start with, we might as well launch right into leather. And this is a saddle grade leather that I'm going to be sewing, first of all, with Shahid's Singer 201-2. It is the thick of thick. I would say it's probably about 4 ounces, almost 5 ounces of leather. And the way it's processed, again, being saddle grade, I mean, it's like sewing the thick of thick. It's like sewing a patio block almost. So, I mean, there's no getting around the difficulty of getting through a material like this. I can tell that I'm a combination of medication and being sick. I am just rambling, and I appreciate your patience as I ramble along. So let's see how this 201-2 does with saddle grade leather. And I'm going to try to get my foot on that silly little button, and we'll get this done. Let me make sure my needle's at the highest position. Okay, here we go. That runs so smooth, it's ridiculous, doesn't it? Oh my gosh, what a beautiful, beautiful machine. All right, let me clip these threads and we'll take a look at this saddle grade leather. Yeah, my screen's turned around, yay. So there you can see our top stitch, the spacing, the formation, the overall presentation of that stitch is just, quite honestly, it's as good as it gets. Just an absolutely picture perfect stitch. And again, as I start to turn it this way, look at the thickness of that saddle grade leather. And I'll turn it the rest of the way over, and then we can look at that lock stitch, which is also equally perfect. The spacing, the formation of that stitch is absolutely spot on. And the other thing really cool is that after going through this machine from bobbin to balance wheel and the motor and the electrical and everything else, the ease in which it got this job done is just crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Absolutely a picture perfect stitch. I'm going to throw that to the back. All right, what should we do next? I think I'll probably do genuine cowhide. This is a leather you've seen me sew before on this channel. You've seen me sew it before numerous times. And we're going to be doing 3 layers of this. I'm going to go ahead and fold it once. I'm going to fold it again. And now we've got 3 layers of this genuine cowhide. I'm going to get this underneath the presser foot. And we'll see how Shahid's Singer 201-2 does with a task like this. Again, this is 3 layers of genuine cowhide, probably talking about 14 ounces of leather. Not an easy task at all. So here we go, and we'll see how this 201-2 does with this task. Here we go. And I'm not even taking it fast and furious. I'm just kind of cruising along here as we put Shahid's 201-2 to the test, and it's doing just a spectacular job. Okay. So here's our top stitch, which again, like the other stitch with the saddle grade, is just spot on. The spacing, the formation is exactly as it should be. And again, look at from the end what we just went through. 3 layers of genuine cowhide, about 14 ounces of leather. Now, what do you think our lock stitch is going to look like? Absolutely picture perfect. The spacing, the formation of that lock stitch is also absolutely spot on. It just doesn't get any better than that. The spacing, the formation, the evenness, the consistency of that stitch is exactly what we would expect to see with a machine that is running tip-top after the restorative process that I took it through. And again, we're talking 14 ounces of genuine cowhide. So I'm going to throw that to the back as well. And I'm going to continue to wipe off this bed so I can try to keep it relatively clean as we go through the remaining sew-offs. So what I'm going to sew now is this. This is a cotton polyester blend. It's used for covering different furniture pieces. We've also used it, I believe, in making curtains as well. And I've got 2 layers that I'm starting with. I'm going to go ahead and fold it once. We're up to 4 layers. And I'm going to go ahead and fold it one more time. And we're all the way up to 8 layers of this polyester cotton blend. And I don't sew this kind of material very often, but I'm wanting to do it just to show you that this machine has the versatility to sew not just heavy grade leather, but it can go the full scope of materials and do just a spectacular job. So here we go with 8 layers of a polyester cotton blend with Shahid's Singer 201-2. All right, here we go. There's just no effort on the part of this machine. It just kicks in and it's just humming through each of these sew-offs. It's just crazy how easily it gets the job done. Now there's our top stitch with these 8 layers of polyester cotton blend, and you can't get a more perfect stitch than that. The spacing, the formation, of that stitch is absolutely picture perfect. Trying to look at my camera as well. Make sure you're seeing what I want you to see. Yeah, that is absolutely a gorgeous, gorgeous top stitch in every respect. And again, as I kind of turn it to the side, look at the thickness of what we just went through with 8 layers of this polyester cotton blend. And then as I turn it the rest of the way so you can look at the lock stitch, there's no difference. That lock stitch, the spacing, the formation, everything about that stitch is textbook perfect. Absolutely gorgeous. So, I mean, we can sew saddle grade, we can sew polyester cotton blends, we can sew genuine cowhide. It just doesn't matter once I've gone through my restorative process and optimized the machine. You're going to get a stitch like that that is absolutely brag worthy. I got to cut those little tails off. That's exactly what we're looking for as far as that stitch presentation. And again, we're talking 8 layers of this polyester cotton blend. So let me throw this to the back now, and we'll continue marching forward. We'll continue marching forward with Shahid's really, really amazing 201-2. So what should I do next? I could probably zip down and do this nylon webbing. This nylon webbing again is used for towing, and actually you can see that I actually used this strap at one time for towing one of my vehicles. Again, this has a tensile rating of about 2,000 pounds. It is absolutely the thick of thick. It is very difficult to get through, and we're going to see how this 201-2 gets this job done as well. So I'm going to go and get that underneath the presser foot, and we might buzz down, kind of turn, and then come back up again. I'm going to see if that's what I feel inspired to do, assuming my voice continues to hold out. So here we go. 2 layers of nylon webbing. We're looking at about a 2,000 tensile strength on this material, and we'll see how Shahid's 201-2 does. Here we go. What a breeze. What an absolute breeze. What an absolute breeze. All right, let's buzz back down now. Here we go. Now this will be a challenge to see, I have no doubt, because we're dealing with excuse me, white thread on this yellow nylon webbing. I might have to zoom in on this at the end so you can see it up close and personal, because it's going to be really, really tough to see it. Oops, let me clip the rest of this off. Yeah, that's going to be a real tough thing to see that. I can try zooming in on it, but I don't know if that's going to help us or not. I will do my best to zoom in on it, and we'll see if we can see it. I like the white thread. I've kind of stepped towards white thread, as you know, but certain colors, when you put white thread on it, man, oh man, it is super tough to see it. Oh, there we go. We can see some of it at least. So again, 2 layers of nylon webbing. Not real easy to see, but the spacing and the formation is absolutely spot on. We go vertical, you can see it a lot better. And as we come back across, thank goodness for dirt. We can kind of see it on the dirt there. But again, the ease in which this 201-2 got the job done, Shahid's 201-2, is just ridiculous how easily it went through this material. Again, this catacomb design on this material, this nylon webbing, I mean, it is ridiculously difficult stuff to get through. Now we're looking at the lock stitch, which is equally fantastic. That is tough to see. Go back again. Well, that is a definite success. 2 layers of nylon webbing. I mean, that's like going through probably 16 to 18 ounces of leather as far as the difficulty in piercing it. And Shahid's 201-2 got it done with absolute ease. Just got it done so easily, it's ridiculous. Yeah, we'll just deviate for a second and kind of go around his machine a little bit. Doesn't that look wonderful compared to where we started? Alright, let me zoom in again. And we have just a couple more sew-offs that I'm going to do on Shahid's 201-2. I've got my U.S. Army grade canvas, I've got some felt, and then I also have some genuine elkite as well that I'm going to do. So, come out just a hair there. And again, thank you for your patience, as I probably sound a little bit muted with this head cold that I have going on right now. Alright, so we've got my beloved U.S. Army grade canvas. We're starting with, excuse me, 2 layers. So I got to turn my screen around. We're starting with 2 layers. I'm going to go ahead and fold it across and get us up to 4 layers. And then I'm going to fold this one more time and get us all the way up to 8 layers. So I'm going to get this into place, and we'll see how Shahid's 201-2 does with 8 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. We already did 8 layers of cotton polyester blend. Now we're raising the stakes even higher, because obviously canvas has a much higher piercing threshold than cotton polyester. But cotton polyester has its own challenges by itself as well. So, at any rate, here we go. 8 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. Here we go. No difficulty. Even on that initial launch, as you're making that first piercing point into the material, this 201-2 just makes it look so ridiculously easy. Better than I can talk, that's for sure. Alright, so here's our top stitch. Again, we're talking 8 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. The spacing, the formation, everything about that stitch is just as good as it can get. Absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous stitching. And again, as I turn it to the side, look at what we just went through. 8 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. I'm telling you, when I put my machines to the test, I'm not going for mediocrity, I'm going for max. And we could even go, excuse me, higher than this if we needed to. Absolutely gorgeous. So let's flip it over and take a look at this lock stitch now. I'm going to kind of bend that material back. That lock stitch as well is absolutely spot on in every way. The spacing, the formation. Everything about that lock stitch is exactly as it should be. And we'll zoom in on these as well so you can see them even up close and more personal. But that is absolutely spot on. That's exactly what we're looking for. And that's 8 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. How ridiculous is that? So now our genuine elk hide, I'm going to go ahead and go through 2 layers of this. Kind of look at it from the side. That is ridiculously thick stuff. We're probably talking 14 ounces. Plus it's been chemically processed so that that piercing threshold is even higher. But I think that this 201-2 that's going to be heading out to Shahid will get the job done very, very easily. So I'm going to get this into place. We'll get that presser foot down. And let's see how this 201-2 does with about 14 ounces of genuine elk hide. I mean, we're talking the thick of thick of thick. This is real tough stuff. As a matter of fact, you know what? Let me adjust this a little bit. We're going to kind of go down and come back around, I think, just so we can have a little bit more fun. All right, so here we go with about 14 ounces of genuine elk hide. All right, here we go. All right, let's put that needle down. Yeah, I went a little bit too far over. I'm going to have to kind of get back on the course here. Again, here we go. Not too straight, but maybe it's some sort of a new rectangle design or something. Beautiful stitching though, holy mackerel. So again, 2 layers of genuine elk hide. There's our top stitch. The spacing, the formation, exactly as we want to see it. It's absolutely picture perfect in every way. It just doesn't get any better than that. And again, as I come, I'm going to kind of rotate this around a little bit with all of my junky threads, which I have to clip. Ah! There we go. Okay, so we've already seen the top stitch. That's our top stitch. Absolutely picture perfect in every respect. Now we're going to slowly turn it over. And there's our lock stitch. It just doesn't get any better than that. The spacing, the formation is exactly as we want to see it. And again, we're not talking about an easy task here. We're talking about 14 ounces of genuine elk hide, and the lock stitch, the top stitch, the lock stitch, the top stitch is absolutely textbook perfect. We only have one more sew off to do, folks. We're going to be doing some felt, which I don't know that I've ever sewn felt on this channel before. Maybe I have, but I don't think I've done. If I've done felt, it hasn't been for a real long time. Trying to get that area wiped off again. So we're going to give it a go. We're going to give it a go, and I'll probably do like 3 layers of this stuff. It's a felt material I picked up, and again, I hope it shows up on this color. Fold it once, get us up to 2 layers, then I'm going to fold it one more time and get us up to 3 layers of felt. Now that's not an easy task, folks. You can see how thick that is. So I'm going to get that underneath the presser foot, and we'll see if we can buzz down on this final sew off on Shahid's 201-2. And we'll wrap up this premiere. All right, so here we go. 3 layers of, this is like a compressed felt material. Here we go. All right, needle down. Oh, I'm way on the edge. I'm getting ridiculous with going way off the edge here. I've got to work on that. All right. Well, we'll see how I did here. And this is going to be, this felt is kind of like a fuzzy surface, so it's going to be a little bit hard to see the stitch definition real clearly, but we'll do our best. I like this color of felt too. It's kind of a turquoise color almost. I just think it's real pretty. All right. So 3 layers of this felt. Yeah, if I pull these back, you can see that stitch definition. But otherwise, it's going to be a little bit tricky. It's going to be a little bit tricky to see it. I'll just bring it across the front of the camera here, and we'll do our best. But there's 3 layers of this felt material. It's kind of a compressed felt. And again, looking at it from the side, there's our thickness and our lock stitch. Our lock stitch actually pops through a little bit more clearly on the back of this. It must be the way I folded the material. But here we can see that stitch definition much more clearly on the lock stitch. And again, a lock stitch is a lot more difficult to produce a quality defined stitch with than that top stitch. So we've got a beautiful, beautiful product here of stitches with the lock and also the top as well. And again, 3 layers of felt is no easy task. So I'm going to go ahead and line these up. I'm going to line these up and we'll see if we can zoom in a little bit closer and take a look at these stitches that Shahid's machine just laid down. Trying to get this material, it's kind of puckery. I'm trying to get it to lay down a little bit. All right, they run out of room here. This is ridiculous. Excuse me. I'm persevering, folks. I'm persevering. Oh, boy. I may come off the tripod on this just so I can try to get a little bit closer to this. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do that. Let me turn my camera around. All right. All right, let's start with this nylon webbing, and I don't know how much I'm going to be able to show you, but I'm going to give it my best. And I am like almost, I'm literally touching it with the lens almost. So here's our 2 layers of nylon webbing, and you can see the stitch definition is absolutely spot on. That's exactly what we want to be seeing through material as thick as this and as difficult to pierce. See if I can zoom in a little bit more. Yeah, that's, I'm really, really pleased with how that's presenting. Yeah, we'll see if we can turn it over as well. So here we're looking at our lock stitch. That is absolutely crazy impressive. The definition of that stitch, again through 2 layers. Come out a little bit here. 2 layers of this nylon webbing. I mean, that is some tough stuff to go through. Again, we're talking about you tow cars with this stuff. So now we're going to look at this genuine elk hide. See if I can get closer on this as well. There we go. That genuine elk hide is just looking absolutely spectacular as far as that stitch presentation and just how it's defined. Very, very pleased with that. It's looking really, really good. Yeah, we're talking with this elk hide, if I kind of turn it to the side, talking probably about 14 ounces of leather. I just turned it over, so now we're going to look at that lock stitch as well. Absolutely spectacular. It just doesn't get any better than that, folks. It just doesn't. Hope I don't drop this camera. Alright, let's go over this felt now. The felt was a real booger as far as seeing that on camera. I know it was. So I'm actually going to pick it up and see if we can zoom in a little bit on this. So here's our 3 layers of felt. Yeah, that helps a lot when I pick it up. The spacing, the formation, everything about that stitch is just absolutely fantastic. Isn't that a gorgeous stitch? Absolutely gorgeous stitch. We're kind of turning it over to the side a little bit. Look at again the thickness of what we went through. And now we're looking at that stitch on the back. Absolutely spot on in every way. I probably would increase that upper tension just a little bit on this felt, just to define that stitch even more, but that's a real good looking stitch. I'm pleased with that. Alright, let's put that back over there. Now we're going to look at our U.S. Army grade canvas. 8 layers of this stuff. Yep, let's zoom in a little bit. There we go. Absolutely picture perfect in every respect. Spacing, formation. Again, we're talking 8 layers. 8 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. It just doesn't get any better than that. And again, look at from the edge. So now we're going to look at that lock stitch on the back. Start at the bottom there. Absolutely perfect. The formation, the spacing. A little bit easier to see it when I turn it sideways like that, isn't it? Absolutely gorgeous stitching. I'm going to go ahead and put that back in place as well. Now we're looking at this polyester cotton blend. Again, we did 8 layers of this. And, yep, there we are. Boy, that white does real well. It's almost a peach color on here. And you can really see that stitch definition pop through beautifully with this color polyester cotton blend. And this white thread. Really, really liking that. Look at that again. 8 layers of that stuff. I'm going to look at that lock stitch on the back. Exactly as it should be. That is absolutely spectacular. A little bit easier to see it when you go sideways. Just goes to show you when you're shooting a premiere and you're doing a video, you got to make some adaptations sometimes so you can see and I can see on camera what I can see easily sitting in front of this in front of Shahid's 201-2. That is absolutely as it should be. And now we've got this genuine cowhide. We went through 3 layers of that. Again, I'll just start by showing you the edge. That's crazy, isn't it? 3 layers of this stuff. Absolutely spectacular. Turn it over. What do you think? Not only does Shahid's machine look a lot more beautiful, but I'll tell you one thing, it just sews and sews and sews beautifully. And now we got this saddle grade single layer. Look at that shine. I'm getting distracted. I'm like a 2-year-old. So here's our saddle grade leather that we did. Absolutely spot on. Turn it over and I'll kind of show you the edge as well. Almost looks like cardboard, doesn't it? The density of that leather. It's ridiculous. And here's our lock stitch on the back. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I'm trying to conserve my voice a little bit, but let me just say that that is exactly what we're looking for. All of those stitches on all of those materials, whether it's this nylon webbing down here, or the elk hide, the felt, the U.S. Army grade canvas, cotton polyester blend, genuine cowhide, or this saddle grade leather. In every instance, this 201-2 that I prepared for Shahid just does a spectacular job of getting a stitch that's consistent and absolutely drop dead gorgeous. Not to mention, remember where his machine started and where we're at now. I didn't even show you this faceplate. It's one of my favorite faceplate stamp designs. And that's just gorgeous, isn't it? Look at the back of Shahid's 201-2 as well. Well, I hope you've been able to understand most of what I've said as I'm battling this head cold, and I'm going to get this back up on the tripod and just share a little bit of fun facts with you real quick. I don't think any of you have looked up this serial number yet. I'm going to move this little felt pad and see if I can zoom in closer on this serial number. AG935293. But if you were to look up this serial number on Shahid's 201-2, you'd find out that it was born back in 1949. And especially in our current culture, which is so politically charged, excuse me, it seems appropriate to highlight that the same year that Shahid's Singer 201-2 was born is the same year that a number of other famous people were born, to include our current president, Donald Trump, who's 73, and Freddie Mercury, a rock singer, also born in 1946, just like this Singer 201-2. Dolly Parton, she's like ageless. You can see her in different things and she never changes. I don't know if she's made out of wax or what, but what an incredible lady. How beautiful she is for being born back in 1946. Also, you may be surprised, Sylvester Stallone, Rocky, Adrian. I can actually, with a head cold, I can do Adrian a lot better. Adrian! So Sylvester Stallone, also born in 1946. Alan Rickman, a movie actor. George W. Bush. Bill Clinton. And finally, Cher, also all born in 1946. And also back in 1946, as a fun fact, the United States exploded a 20 kiloton atomic bomb near Bikini Atoll in the Marshall Islands in the Pacific Ocean. And the Philippines, which officially became a territory of the United States in 1902, gained its independence in that same time period. And then in 1932, a movement to implement Philippine independence began to grow, blah, blah, blah. So, but again, I alluded to it before, that the Singer Model 201 in its infancy started around 1928, and then they produced the 201 in one form or another until 1963. And trying to read some of my fun facts here. So during World War II, Singers, like most manufacturing companies, helped with the war effort and turned most of their machinery over to production of items like bullets and hand grenades. Singers received their first order for 100,000 Mills No. 36 hand grenades in July of 1940 and marked their Mills bombs with the SMC, Singer Manufacturing Corporation, company logo. In America and Canada, the Singer factories helped with automatic pistols, propellers, bomb sights, carbines, B-29 machine gun control systems, and much more. In 1947, the Singer Company proudly presented, and this is a transition, we're no longer talking about the war period. In 1947, they presented a Singer 201 to Princess Elizabeth, which they deemed their finest sewing machine, and I agree. And when they did the royal wedding involving this princess, you could see right next to the jewels and the gifts that the couple received was the British 201 Singer displayed right next to all of that. So I think that's way cool, don't you? And apparently, because of eventually this Princess Elizabeth becoming Queen Elizabeth, everybody would talk about, well, if the Singer 201 is fit for Queen Elizabeth, then it's certainly good enough for me. And so along with being the Rolls-Royce of Singers, the roots of the British version of the 201 also can boast about Queen Elizabeth using the machine and having those royal roots as well. And a lot of people don't know it, and this is mainly over in Britain, but in the 1950s, they did a much lighter version of the Singer 201. This obviously in front of you, Shahid's version is a heavy machine, but they made a number of 201s out of aluminum for the first time as well in the 1950s. They had to retool their factories. They had to come up with new castings. But the 201K that they made out of aluminum, obviously substantially lighter than these traditional 201s that were basically cast iron. It's my last little fun fact. Oh, okay. So in 1949, the Singer 201 complete with original receipt was right around 32 pounds. And you can do the conversion of what 32 pounds was worth back in 1949. And that would have included an oak treadle. The average wage was a little more than a few pounds a week in the 1940s. And during the World War II period, a farm girl was typically paid about 10 shillings a week in the 1940s. So the machine would have represented, a Singer 201 back in the 1940s would have represented about 64 weeks of wages. And most people would buy their machine on installments. And the typical time period to pay for a machine was 3 to 5 years. So, incredible history behind the Singer 201. And I know that Shahid, out in the beautiful city of San Diego in California, is going to absolutely have a blast with this machine. The reason I sewed so many different types of leathers, the elk hide, the cowhide, and then also the saddle grade leather as well, is Shahid is going to be using this 201-2 to sew leather out in San Diego. So I hope this has been helpful, even amid my stuffy headedness. Hopefully I've been intelligible and you've been able to understand what I've said through this process. But I'm absolutely elated to reach the end of this project, which was multi-scope when it came to having to try to take that original paint and decals back to a decent luster that would be representative of a Rolls-Royce of Singers. And I think I've accomplished that as you look through the camera here at Shahid's 201-2. And then also go through it from bobbin the balance wheel and go through that motor and give this machine the grit and the brawn that it needed as well, so that it's up to the task when it arrives out in San Diego real soon. Well, God bless you guys. I hope I don't come on camera again with any other ailments. You know, amid all the challenges I've had recently, I'm going to continue to plug forward. I appreciate your well wishes, your prayers, and also you joining this premiere of celebration as we look at Shahid's amazing 201-2. All right, God bless. Take care.